Hey guys, Ryan Earnhardt here from CreativeSoundLab.tv. Today I want to talk to you about this misconception I've seen online. I think I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now. I can't believe people are doing this. I think it's just a convenience thing because they can put a plug in a hole and so they do it. There's lots of bad advice out there. I'd like to clear up that idea of how to really send a mix through a pair of preamps and also how to use a pair of external preamps with an interface. But then on top of that, I like to leave you and other video makers that may be out there watching this and encourage you to follow kind of 3 ideas that I have for making sure we are providing the best possible information into our videos. And kind of my promise to you guys to make sure that my videos are the best they can be, with the best information. Let's get started. Okay, so this issue came up when I was watching other videos online. The guy was saying if you want to use an external preamp to a interface that you already have, well, you just simply take the output of the preamp and you plug it, you convert it to a 1/4 inch, so you get 1/4 inch out of your preamp, and you put it right into the DI input of your interface. That's just not the way you should hook it up. Okay, that input is made for high impedance type sources, so keyboards and instruments. So bass guitar would be a great way to use that input. Guitars would be a great use for that input. Keyboards, also a great use for that input, but not line level, not balanced, okay? If you're using, think of the wires, okay? You have 3 wires and a balanced output from a preamp, right? And it's line level, and the impedance is nowhere near what a guitar would be. So why would you plug it into a high Z input or otherwise a DI box? Okay, they're the same thing. Okay, think about that. You're not going to get optimal tone doing that. You're welcome to do that if you want, but it's just not even designed to do it. So what I suggest to do instead is if you want to use an external preamp and go into something like an interface, try to use the line input if it has a line input. That is really what makes an interface able to receive signals from external preamp. So I have a Behringer interface that I use for the lapel mic and video recording and stuff with a laptop. Well, I got specifically that model because it has a line level input. So I could use, say, my Warm Audio preamps and using its line output go into the 1/4 inch line level. That's important. Okay, I'm not going into the DI input, the high Z input. No, I'm going into a line level input. The second most, this is kind of a hack job way of doing it, but at least you're going balanced to balanced, is to use a inline pad. So they make like inline pads of 30 and 40, 50 dB. I would suggest maybe starting out with maybe a 40 dB inline pad. I'll put a link in the description below. You can also make cables using 2 or 3, I think it's 3 resistors. Go back and watch that video on how I did it. I have a bunch of 20, it's 3 resistors. I have a bunch of 20 dB pads here at the studio that I use for this type of purpose. And so this way you can actually take the output of your preamp, and without having to overdrive the input of your preamp on the interface, you can use your external pre. That would be a much better way to do it than going from the output of that external pre into a DI input. No, don't do that, okay? Third way to do it is just forget the external preamp, use the built-in input. That's what it's there for, okay? You kind of signed up for that with that interface. Unless you have a line input, then you can use external preamps. So that's really the best way to do it. The other issue I saw online is people wanting to do full mixes, stereo out mixes into a pair of external preamps like a Neve style preamp, and the way they were going in was the DI input of these Neve preamps. Again, we're going line level balanced, 3 cables into high impedance input with only meant to accept 2 connectors, right? So 2 wires in that guitar cable. It's really not meant to do it that way. I would suggest using an inline pad, padding it down, going into the XLR jack on the back, and then using the gain to throttle the amount of color. This is what not to do and how I would do it better. Again, some things are subjective, but some things are definitely not. When it comes to the design of circuits, I don't mess with it. I try to use the design tools to get me to do the things I want to do. Same thing with reamping, okay? I don't go line output directly into an amp, okay? I have a test showing there's a terrible amount of buzz. I've had some times where it just doesn't work, the signal's fighting itself. So again, same issue. We're going balanced out directly into an amp. The amp's expecting basically a tip and a sleeve plug, which is 2 wires in that guitar cable. It's just not even the right type of signal to go into that amp, okay? Instead, use a reamp box, okay? That's the proper tool. So here's kind of the 3 things that I use, okay? The 3 things that I'm always asking myself every time I make a video. First, can I cite a source, okay? So I have real books that I have at home by my bed. I have some here at the studio. I can just pull out and say, oh yeah, okay, you know, page 568 of this book, you can go and check it out if you want some more information on that. I do this all the time, okay? This is where anytime I have like the invisible whiteboard shot, I'm usually working off of sources like this because it's very kind of technical information that I'm drawing out, and these sources help me to make the video have good, proper information. The second thing that I do is I look to more seasoned engineers, more seasoned than I, to get good advice from. So I've tried this and done videos with Brian McTeer, Mixerman, Eric Seraphin, and then John Cunaberti. So John Cunaberti is doing this series with one microphone using an R88 and doing like a really old school recording with a stereo mic and everybody's surrounded, single take mic recording, single take recordings. So I wanted to recreate that. I think it's a really cool technique. I'll be making that video soon. So I was able to contact him directly. He coached me on it, how to do it. This way I wouldn't destroy his technique. So I just got the information straight from the source, okay? Eric, okay, Mixerman, I can ask him questions and he can say, oh yeah, I was there when that technique came into being, when it was like invented, right? So that's a really cool story, is that, oh yeah, I remember that session. It was this session on 2003 when you first tried that technique for drums, okay? So again, we're looking to more seasoned engineers. Brian McTeer, he's been there, done that. He's been a huge influence for me. I can ask him questions and he can tell me, oh yeah, you should try this, or you're not gonna like when you do this. And you don't have to chase after, people that are like in the public scene. You can just be like, hey, make friends with somebody local and say, hey, you've had a studio for 10 years, I'm just starting up. Let's be friends, So find people that are older than you to guide you. And then finally, if you can't do any of those 2 things, either have a source or have a friend that is more seasoned in audio engineering and mixing than you are, then prove it, okay? Show that this mic sounds different than this mic, okay? Does an amp sound better with isolation, like foam isolation underneath the cabinet, or does it not, okay? And a lot of times what this turns into is that sometimes I don't even know the answer, so I'm trying it, and instead of just saying that it does, for sure, and that you should go buy something, what I do is I say, well, I'll let you hear it. You can pretty much decide for yourself what you think, but I always have it open for discussion. So these are, really 3 things I've really used a lot to make these videos, to make sure that you're getting good advice, advice that you can depend on, okay? So let me know what you thought. There's tons of crazy ideas out there and videos, more than we could possibly watch. So these are just things to keep in mind when you watch videos online. I'll talk to you soon.